Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow.
Well, I want to start with a huge announcement, and that is breaking news. You may have seen it on our Facebook feeds, our social media feeds. We are very happy to report that the United States Army has voted to reinstate or to allow to continue to serve Sergeant First Class Green Beret Charles Martland. This is a case that we got involved in October of last year. We're going to be joined on the broadcast today with our military experts, retired Colonel, of course, Skip Ash in our office in Virginia Beach, Wes Smith, also retired Colonel here in our media center. And this victory, obviously, we thank the Lord for the victory. These cases are never easy when you're dealing with military tribunals. They're not easy in court. They're not any easier in a military tribunal. But Duncan Hunter, we had the privilege of working with him on this. Let me give you a little bit of the outline of the facts. You know the situation. We sent out our first letter on this case in October of 2015. We outlined in our letter, it was a legal defense letter, the numerous laws prohibiting the sexual abuse of children, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Afghan law, and international customs and norms. Now, this individual that was Afghani also worked on a U.S. base. He was an Afghanistan police officer. He abused this child. The mother brought the child to the base to be examined. The abuse was confirmed. Over a period of time, Sergeant Martland and his officer that was in command of Sergeant Martland physically removed this Afghan police officer who did this, laughed about it, by the way, removed him from the base. Physically removed him from the base. And that's where this quantitative closing down or narrowing of the military was in his record, in Charles Martland's record. The end result was they're getting ready to throw out this decorated war hero. We also created a petition in October to Charles Martland. Duncan Hunter sent a letter in January. End result. You want to know how many people participated in this, folks? How many people? 342,582 of you signed a petition for Charles Martland. You know how many letters you all sent? 66,845. And Sergeant Charles Martland, Sergeant First Class, stays in the United States Army defending our freedoms, and it was a privilege to defend his. All right, we're getting ready to take a break. Let me just say this. We've been sending out emails and alerts over the last month on the issue of the persecution and the genocide that's going on in the Middle East against Christians. We've been talking about the Middle East a lot on these last few broadcasts. I've sent out an email. One said Christians are being crucified. They're being massacred out of existence. And this is fact. And this genocide has to stop. Now, we finally got the United States to acknowledge that this was genocide. That took a big effort. But now we've got to get international application of these resolutions. And that's where you come in. We've got a petition up at ACLJ.org, and I want you to sign it. Stand with the persecuted church. Stop the genocide. You could sign that at ACLJ.org, or you can call at 1-877-989-2255 to add your name to a petition to stop the genocide, and stop it today. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. Back with more in just a moment.
Islamic State jihadists behead, mutilate, and torture Christians. The brutal toll of nearly 1 million Christians have been slaughtered or displaced. ISIS is engaged in the blatant genocide of Christians in the Middle East. Yet, President Obama refuses to recognize the genocide against Christians. He's pressuring the State Department to deny endangered Christians critical legal protections from ISIS's slaughter. The ACLJ is fighting back, aggressively advocating for vital international legal protections for Christians. We've mobilized our offices on Capitol Hill and across the globe, filing crucial legal documents to protect persecuted Christians from ISIS genocide. Stand up for Christians right now. Sign on to our new petition to recognize the genocide and protect Christians. Call now 1-877-989-2255 or add your name online, aclj.org.
if you are just joining us, we've got a big announcement, a big win. Sergeant First Class Charles Martland's not getting kicked out of the military. He's going to stay. He's a decorated military hero. You all responded, basically looking at the numbers, 400 and something thousand of you around the country to stand with Sergeant First Class Charles Martland. The military's allowed him to stay in. And this is a big day. We are privileged to have in our studios our military analyst, and that is Colonel Wes Smith, a good friend of ours, been on this broadcast many times. He's here with us today. Skip Ash is of course, also a colonel retired. We got 2 Army guys. Well, that's as good because he's an Army, and so is Martland. So that makes sense. And Logan, what are you?
I'm a supporter.
You're a supporter.
I'm like John Cena. I'm for the troops.
You're for the troops. You're John Cena. And Skip Ash, Senior Counsel for the ACLJ, is also a Lieutenant Colonel. Let's talk about this, guys. Let's talk about the win here. Oh, great. We're going to go right to Duncan Hunter then. That takes priority right here. Congressman, thanks for being with us, and what a great day and what a great win.
Hey, absolutely. And thank you guys for everything that you did. Those petitions and just getting the American people to kind of realize what the Army was doing, that was huge. This is all about the people. I mean, the Army, the last people the Army wants to make mad are the people that supply their soldiers, right, which is the American families.
Let me ask you this, Congressman. You led the charge on this on the Hill. You brought it to the country's attention. We're thrilled to work with you, of course, and work with Sergeant Martland. Let's talk about what was going on internally here, because this is one of the great questions. Here was a decorated military war hero, and it seems like the bureaucracy just got in the way and ran with it.
Yeah, true. And you also have kind of inside the bubble thinking, even within the Army, even within warfighters in their minds in the Army, that he stepped outside of what they would call good order and discipline, meaning even if he was right to do what he did, they think the way that he did it was wrong. Okay, so you have that mindset in the military too, but our answer is it's got to pass the smell test. If you beat up a child rapist on a U.S. base after he laughs in your face when you accuse him of child rape, that is an okay thing. It's okay to have absolute truths. It's okay to have morality that you understand is the right thing, no matter what anybody else says. And that's what Martland did. He did the right thing. So not only should he not be kicked out of the Army, he should be getting an award for what he did.
You know, I agree. And we looked at the Uniform Code of Military Justice. We've got a lot of military lawyers that have worked with us over the years and have several right now. We also looked at the international law and treaties. Of course, Afghan was violating their own laws. No shock there. But I think the shocking thing for our audience, frankly, was that the administrative mindset, as you said, Congressman, was kind of taking this process over. And here you had a decorated war hero who's officer said was the model soldier of what we needed in Afghanistan and Iraq and fighting for us, and yet it was just going to be, well, this is what it is, and out he goes. But let me ask you this question, because you served in defending our freedoms, which I appreciate so much, Congressman. But let me ask you this. In looking at the situation, do you think this helps set a bit of a precedent that we've got to be very careful when they're doing this, because the American people are now looking?
Yeah, it sets that kind of precedent, but I think it also sets a negative precedent for our men in the field.
Yeah.
Because they look at what happened to Martland and they go, hey, what if I try to do the right thing? Right? I don't want to go through two or 3 years of the military trying to kick me out because I did the right thing. So what it does is it makes our guys on the ground hesitant.
Sure.
But here's what's happened too. The bureaucracy and the lawyers within the Department of Defense run the show, because Iraq and Afghanistan weren't major wars, right? I mean, they weren't wars in the sense of World War II, Korea, Vietnam.
Right.
So what you had is you had a warfighter mindset for probably 7 or 8 years, and the bureaucrats are back in charge now, because we're not in war now. I mean, the president sends a few hundred people at a time to Iraq and Syria, right?
Yeah, 250 today,
not
right?
In war, so the lawyers and DOD are in charge now, and that's an unfortunate thing. Could you imagine being in a big war, and where you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of soldiers and Marines overseas, and having this kind of stuff go on? You have to let the people at the lowest level do their job. And that's what Martland did, and thank God.
Yeah, and I want to tell you, we're getting a response. And Congressman, Logan's going to say something here, because we're monitoring our Facebook feeds and our Periscope feeds. Some really nice comments about you and your office.
Yeah, absolutely. Some Periscope viewers who chimed in and said they had called your office and talked to them about this situation. They said your staff was excellent to deal with, and they're very happy to see this outcome. And thank you. And they said that they need you to stay where you are and keep supporting the country and keep supporting the San Diego area.
Yeah.
This is what we do. Charles Martland, I'm not even sure where he's from.
Right.
This isn't a in fact, all the people that we help, from Goldstein, Jason Amarine, Martland, these guys that we've helped, they're not from San Diego. They're not even from California. But that's my job, guys. I mean, that's why I got elected, and I represent, right?
You absolutely, and we really appreciate Congressman you taking the lead on this. And again, a huge thank you to your staff, and was always glad to work with you, but especially glad when we got a victory like this. Thanks for taking time and being with us. Great victory, and thank you so much, Congressman Duncan Hunter.
Hey, thank you, guys. Wouldn't have been possible without you.
All right, very good. Thanks, Congressman. Hey, folks, this is this is a day to celebrate. This is a big win, and I'm glad that people, Logan, were commenting that I know Congressman Duncan Hunter's staff has been really dedicated to defending our men and women in the military.
Yeah, clearly, and a lot of comments coming in. A lot of people are just very supportive and excited that he was so willing to come on. Even come on here with last minute notice. As I said, it broke late last night.
Yep, that was great. Let's take caller 2, and then I'm going to get to everybody in the conversation. Number 3, line 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Brenda's calling from Maine on line 3.
Hey, Brendan. By the way, we are taking your calls at 1-800-684-3110. The Congressman touched on Syria. We're going to get into some of that as well, but we're taking your calls at 800-684-3110.
I am thrilled. I am so proud of the congressman for stepping up and stepping out on this issue. We need to applaud our soldiers for standing up for a child, for doing the right thing, for being moral.
Well,
he deserves an award.
Well, that's that's exactly, Brenda, what we're saying, and that's exactly the situation that we have to be conscious of here, and that he does deserve an award. But let's talk about the importance of this. Wes, you served in those combat zones as a colonel, as a chaplain in our military. You were with our men and women. Here's a guy that, I think what Congressman Hunter said, the military is saying, well, he did it wrong. I mean, it was process, not whether it should have happened or not, but it was process. But to then take that process with a guy that had a perfect record and say, you're out, was absurd.
It was absurd. And two of the things that I hear from my friends who are still in the military that are most frustrating about our missions in Afghanistan, morale, by all accounts, is very, very low in the military at this point. But living in a culture where, in the Pashtun culture, this behavior that the police officer, was involved in is accepted, that combined with the rules of engagement serves to really demoralize the troops.
Exactly. So it's the demoralization. Skip, I want you to follow up on what's just said, because this is now Duncan Hunter said it, and Wes has said it, and this is the impact that this have on our troops.
Yeah, it's exactly right. The troops are trained to go fight. They're trained to do the right thing. Our American troops have a high moral standard, and we do the right thing. And then to be punished for standing up for the helpless. I mean, the whole purpose of going over there was to win the hearts and minds of people and to defeat the enemy. How do you win the hearts and minds when a mother comes to appeal to you because her son is being raped repeatedly by an Afghan soldier and do nothing? And our chain of command over there supported the do nothing, and that's absolutely unconscionable.
We're getting ready for a break, but I want to encourage you to take some action, folks. I mentioned on previous broadcasts that Christians are being crucified, sold into slavery by ISIS. This is happening immediately. The Islamic State is abducting Christians, and especially women. They'll kill the men, but the women and children, especially females, they're selling into slavery. We successfully pressured the Obama administration. They didn't want to do it, to label this as genocide against Christians. Now it is our time for action. Solemn duty to act is what I said in an email. We need your help. We have a petition up. It's an obligation to act. We got to enforce these resolutions. That's going to take work at the United Nations, and we're uniquely positioned to do that at the ACLJ because our European affiliate is a non-governmental organization, an NGO with special consultative status at the UN. If you want to help us, we encourage you to do it. Sign that petition now to stop the genocide at aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255.
Islamic State jihadists behead, mutilate, and torture Christians. The brutal toll of nearly 1 million Christians have been slaughtered or displaced. ISIS is engaged in the blatant genocide of Christians in the Middle East. Yet, President Obama refuses to recognize the genocide against Christians. He's pressuring the State Department to deny endangered Christians critical legal protections from ISIS's slaughter. The ACLJ is fighting back, aggressively advocating for vital international legal protections for Christians. We've mobilized our offices on Capitol Hill and across the globe, filing crucial legal documents to protect persecuted Christians from ISIS genocide. Stand up for Christians right now. Sign on to our new petition to recognize the genocide and protect Christians. Call now 1-877-989-2255 or add your name online, aclj.org.
Great way to get into the weekend, and that is a win for Sergeant Charles Martland, the decorated Sergeant First Class, Green Beret, who's going to be thrown out of the Army. Not now. That's because 400,000 of you made a statement. Our team did a great job here. I want to thank all of our team who did a great job. Everybody from Wes and Skip and our production teams and our staffs, but also to, of course, Duncan Hunter's office, but mostly to you all. I mean, 400,000 of you contacted us. This is an incredible number of people. We started working on the case in October. The case is now resolved at the end of April. In our world, that's pretty quick. And Wes, I take it in the military, that's probably pretty quick too.
Very quick.
Yeah,
Very quick. Yeah.
Very quick. So that was a good, quick result. All right, Logan, we got a lot of people calling in, and let's get right to those calls.
Let's go to Shuri, who is calling from Los Angeles, California.
Hey, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning,
Yep.
and thank you so much, Jay. Oh my gosh, I'm so elated to hear this. I'm a military mom. My heart went out to this young man. How dare they? Ugh, shame on them for that. And I'm so thankful that you guys had the outcome. Now I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is this not like how we treat our men and women in the police force? I mean, we're undermining their ability to do the right thing. Every time when they do the right thing, they're afraid they're going to get in trouble for it.
Well, no, you're exactly correct. And this is one of the problems. And I think Duncan Hunter underscored it. But let me go to Skip and Wes here. Skip, that there is this morale issue. I'm saying, look, we've shown a light, really
shine a light on this whole situation.
Yeah, and it opened it up, and people saw what it was, and people reacted. But the fact is, it also had a negative consequence, and that is that it happened in the first place. And that does hurt, as Shuri just said. That hurts morale, and that's not what we need in the military.
That's exactly right. We need to go from this politically correct culture where we have to watch everything we say and everything we do, and we have to keep our eyes on the ball. What are we trying to do? We are trying to win the war over there. We're trying to win the hearts and minds of people, and if anything gets in the way of that, then it should be expunged. The same with law enforcement. The whole idea is that the whole idea of law enforcement is to protect us from the bad guys, and to the extent that our police officers need our support, they should have our support.
Let me ask you this, Wes, because you served as a chaplain, so you dealt with men and women, and this was a tough situation. But as we were researching this, you and I have talked about it for hours and hours. We've worked on this case. This was a guy that had, other than this one incident, had a sterling record in the military. I mean, Bronze Star recipient, officer write-ups were fantastic. In fact, the guy that wrote him up on the physically removing the Afghan police officer off base said if he knew it was going to result in these kind of consequences, he would have never done it because he was the kind of soldier you wanted. So from the morale standpoint, you were the chaplain, you talked to them as a colonel. What does it do?
It's devastating to morale, and it puts the soldiers in a bind so that they're in life and death situations and they're in crisis situations, and yet they have to second guess what their action and their reactions are going to be. And in certain cases, this gets people killed because they're not sure that they will get in trouble. Same thing Sherry mentioned in law enforcement. Frequently, my son-in-law is a police officer. Police officers are so afraid of getting in trouble for using force. There have been police officers who've been shot and killed because they didn't react quickly enough.
Because they were afraid.
Because they're afraid. And the same thing's happening in Afghanistan.
Yeah, and Skip, we've talked about the rules of engagement issue. This is a huge problem. Still is a problem.
It really is. I mean, we have to understand that there's a loyalty thing within the military, but we are expected to be loyal to our commanders, but we also need to have the loyalty from above going down to the soldiers who are actually the trigger pullers, those who are down, and they're normally the more junior guys. So they're the guys the least experienced who have to make the instantaneous decisions. We need to cut them some slack. We need to be there for them when they get into a situation like this, and we weren't there for Sergeant Martland, and thank goodness for the ACLJ and the member of Congress who stepped up for him.
Let me just say one other thing here, because I really believe this. Look, folks, this was really a team effort. A lot of people were involved in this. But there was a lot of new stations that you all are listening to us that just joined us in the last month, so you don't know the history of that. That's why I traced the history in the beginning of the broadcast. I'm going to do that again after the break. We've been working on this since October. But we don't just talk about it on this broadcast. This is not just, here are the issues, let's talk about it. This is talking about it and doing it. So we're doing the public policy work. We're doing the government affairs work. We're dealing with the military issues. We're dealing with the Supreme Court. We're in court. We're dealing with the military. I mean, Skip, you were just in a proceeding. I don't want to go into the details. We won't announce that yet, but you were in another military proceeding just 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. Out for an Air Force officer who, because of his religious beliefs, was being threatened to have his wings taken away.
Yeah, his wings taken away. Another guy that was honor recipient. So I'm telling you, we're not just talking about it here. We're fully engaged in it. Logan, let's grab a phone call.
Patricia in Marietta, Georgia, you're on the air.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks to ACLJ and all of the senators and everyone that worked on Sergeant Martland.
Yep.
I just have one overarching question about the whole thing.
Sure.
How did this ever even get out of the Army? Why didn't they take care of it?
Well, I'm going to let Wes and Skip give you the technical reasons, but let me give you the 60,000 flyover. There was a quantitative downsizing in the military, and he got caught in a bureaucratic red tape because of this. There was an incident report, and that's what triggered what became a 6-month fight. Wes?
Well, one of the things that Skip and I talked about a while back is that the local commander for the Special Forces had several options. He ended up sending it up the chain, and he got a general letter of reprimand. But as Skip had told me, he could have done a local letter of reprimand and kept it in his local file, and it never really would have gotten out of the unit. Is that correct, Skip?
That's correct. I mean, that's the way he should have done it.
So part of it was process, right, Skip? The process started off wrong.
Right. And once he got that bad mark and you begin to downsize, there's so many good people in the Army that they're looking for anybody with a mark against his record, and you have these drones down there just looking through records for bad marks, and they don't know who these people are. They don't know what they've done. So at the lowest level, I can understand why they identified his file. It never should have been in there. But once it goes up, when you get to the decision makers, that's where we had to intervene, and the congressman and everybody else, and that's where we got the success.
The good that comes out of this, though, is that it put a spotlight on what's going on in the military, too.
Because Martland is a hero, folks, and decorated war hero and a Green Beret. So good news there. All right, rapid fire, Logan.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to David in Toledo, Ohio.
Hi, David.
Hello there.
Yes, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I love your band.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for your work on this thing.
Great.
And my question very quickly is, from a legal point of view, with the antagonism toward biblically based people in the military, is there anything that can be done to kind of slow down this tendency?
So what we're having to do is engage these issues regularly. Now, Wes was a chaplain, and the chaplains corps has been getting beaten up by some of these groups that are going after him. So we're fighting back hard. We got to use legal means. We've got to use political means. We've got to use mass communications. But there's something that's Wes working on right now. I'm not going to go into don't want to let it out of the bag, but there's something coming within the chaplains corps that if it turned out to be true, it would turn your head. I mean, but I guess, Wes, at the end of the day, though, this goes back to public statements on this make a difference. I mean, we saw that here. 450,000 people basically responded. It had a huge impact.
Absolutely, it did. The military is one of the largest bureaucracies in the world, but the letters that come in, they account for those letters, and many of them are read, and they react to that. They react to public opinion.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Sarah, who's calling on line 1 from Rockville, Maryland.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, I'm very happy about this, but I actually called in to talk about the 250 that we're going to forfeit. We are not kamikazes, and I don't want those men killed.
Well, look, you raised the point. Let me tell you this. Our Wes Smith has an article up at aclj.org that, Sarah, you need to read, and everybody needs to read. It's called Words Matter, and So Do Boots. We're going to get into it, but let's talk about this for a moment. We're talking about, of course, the president saying he's sending 250 special force troops to Syria to support the rebels, whoever they are. Wes, we'll go through the article in a little bit, but as we've only got about a minute and a half here. Let's talk about a little bit about this, because you hear Sarah's frustration. I mean, she's frustrated.
Absolutely. And, there's so many contradictions involved here with the administration and our soldiers on the ground who really do the fighting. Yesterday, the White House released a statement that said that concerning these 250 special operators going to Syria, that, quote, they will not engage the enemy, unquote. Well, if you have an enemy, and the White House inadvertently called them that, why wouldn't you engage them? You send soldiers into a war zone. They're trained to defend the nation and to sacrifice their lives, and so they can see the enemy. The enemy can shoot at them, but they can't engage the enemy. It makes absolutely no sense.
So, Skip, as a line officer, a tank commander, if you were in the tank division in Syria and they say, "Oh, we're sending you another 250 troops," what does this mean?
Well, I would agree that special operations troops are a force multiplier, but let's keep in mind that the president seems more concerned about not losing than he is about winning, and therefore he's doing this piecemeal. And when you do it piecemeal, you endanger the forces you send in. You've got to be serious. What is your goal? How are you going to achieve that goal? And then you need to go for it. And I don't think the president has gone through that, and I don't think he's asked his military advisors for that advice because they could give it to him in a matter of days if they don't already have it already in their desk ready to go.
That's going to do it for the broadcast today. Folks, I've been talking about this petition on genocide. You know, a lot of you signed our first petition, which had a good result, and that was the administration finally acknowledged and stated that Christians were, in fact, being subject to genocide by ISIS and others in that region, in the Middle East. But now it's time to take it to the next level, and that is the international bodies and to seek enforcement of international protocols to protect the persecuted church. We need to mobilize tens of thousands of you from around the globe. Sign this petition today. Stop the genocide. ACLJ.org. That's ACLJ.org. Or 1-877-989-2255. We don't have a moment to lose. Take action now. ACLJ.org to sign that petition to stop the genocide. Or 1-877-989-2255.
Islamic State jihadists behead, mutilate, and torture Christians. The brutal toll of nearly 1 million Christians have been slaughtered or displaced. ISIS is engaged in the blatant genocide of Christians in the Middle East. Yet, President Obama refuses to recognize the genocide against Christians. He's pressuring the State Department to deny endangered Christians critical legal protections from ISIS's slaughter. The ACLJ is fighting back, aggressively advocating for vital international legal protections for Christians. We've mobilized our offices on Capitol Hill and across the globe, filing crucial legal documents to protect persecuted Christians from ISIS genocide. Stand up for Christians right now. Sign on to our new petition to recognize the genocide and protect Christians. Call now 1-877-989-2255 or add your name online, aclj.org.